Today I'm speaking on choices and what to do with your life. And one of the certainties of life is that each one of us will have to make choices. Some of the choices we make are automatic with little thinking. You wake up in the morning, you just know that you must go and have your bath. When you finish having your bath, you know that you must comb your hair and things like that. When you pick food from the table, you know that it must go into your mouth. Those are choices you make, and they come with very little thought. Averagely, it is said that human beings make about 10,000 or more choices a day, and most of them are made without thinking. But some of them, you have to think carefully about them. I'm sure some of you woke up this morning, you had your bath, and I hope that you did. You chose whether to brush your teeth or not, what to wear to church, and so on and so forth. And these are usually automatic choices, although some people have a difficulty with choosing even what to wear. There are choices you have to be very conscious about, and there are choices that you may be unconscious about. But the choices that you have to be conscious about are because they have consequences, and they will play back in your life later. For example, you have to choose to be prosperous, or you have to choose not to be. And the things you do now, if you don't realize, it will have consequences to determine whether you'll be prosperous or you will not. Some consequences are not immediate, and it takes a while to manifest. So if you find somebody who says, I'm smoking today, when somebody smokes today, you don't see the effects immediately tomorrow. So sometimes people think that, I've smoked and nothing has happened. But you find out that maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line, you'll begin to see the effect of that. So not all consequences have not all choices have immediate consequences. So if somebody says, I'm stopping school, I'm dropping out of school, or I won't learn, the next day, the person won't be poor. But you find out that 5 years down the line, that decision of not going to school, or 10 years down the line, will begin to show its effects. So some of the things we do today, the fact that you don't see the consequence today does not mean that it doesn't have consequence. So if you stop praying, if you stop studying, if you stop working, the consequences will show later. When God told Adam, in the day that you eat, you will die, he didn't see the consequence the next day, but he introduced death into his life. So you have to start asking yourself things you are doing today and the consequences tomorrow. If you decide to be dishonest today, you may get away with it, but you may give yourself a character trait where people may tell you are dishonest, and therefore in future you find out that people brand you and don't want to do business with you. So things you get away with today does not necessarily mean that you are free forever. Is somebody hearing me? Good. Okay. So what is a choice? A choice is an act of selecting or making a decision when faced with two or more possibilities or options. In other words, you do not have a choice, or you cannot make a choice if you only have one thing in front of you. So for there to be a choice, it means that there has to be options and there has to be preferences. Life seems simpler without options. When you don't have an option, you don't have a choice. So if you want to eat and you go to a kinky seller, and that's all she sells, all you do is you buy kinky. But if you go to a restaurant and there's a buffet, or there are a lot of things on the menu, you find out that because you have a lot of choices, you have to think more about what you want to buy. When there is no choice, you just buy what you want and then leave the place quickly. So choices, life becomes complicated when you have to make choices. So if you are going to marry, for example, there'll be a lot of beautiful women. If you are going to live in a place, there'll be a lot of houses to choose from. If you are going to school, there are a lot of subjects to choose from. So you have to think about where you want your life to go, and then you make particular choices. The reality of life is that God created us as human beings to make choices. And he expects us to make choices. 3 things everybody must know about himself. Number 1, God created every human being with a free will. So your God doesn't impose himself upon you. You are free to decide. So every human being is even free to decide, I don't want God or I want God. Number 2, God created us with a conscience to know what is right and what is wrong. So everybody deep down, within your spirit, you know when you are doing the right thing and you know when you are not doing the right thing. And then number 3, God created us to exercise that free will and use our conscience to freely make decisions without anybody forcing you. So you can decide that I will wake up and go to church, or I will not wake up and go to church. You can decide to sleep longer than, and nobody is forcing you, because God created every human being to be able to exercise that free will and use our conscience by ourselves. Turn your Bible to Deuteronomy chapter 30. Let's read verses 19 and 20. You will see part of the final instructions that Moses gave to Israel is recorded in this book. And in verse 19, he says, I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live. So this is God giving instructions to the Israelites through Moses and telling them, today I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. These are choices. These are options. Then God himself comes and says, even though I've placed a choice before you, I'm directing you on what to choose. Therefore, choose life. Interestingly, when people are faced with choices between life and death, surprisingly, everybody knows that life is good, but people also make very bad choices. And in the face of what is good, they make a bad choice. So everybody here knows, for example, that lateness and punctuality. What is good? Obedience and disobedience. What is good? And yet you find out that in the glaring face of a good choice, people refuse good and then they choose to do the bad thing. Choices, when they are made, cannot be cancelled with prayer. You see, this year we've been speaking about prosperity. Do you want prosperity? I place before you prosperity and poverty. And I advise you, choose prosperity. But you find out, interestingly, in the face of prosperity and poverty, people still will make a bad choice. And that is what it is. And then after they've made a bad choice, then they want to pray to cancel the effect of the bad choice. Prayer cannot override choices. That's one of the things you know. So once you make a choice, you can't pray against the consequence of that choice. Are you with me? Good. Okay. So when you make a choice, you set in motion a course of life. In the New Testament, even Jesus Christ was confronted with making choices. In John chapter 10, verse 17, Jesus had to make a choice whether to go to the cross or to refuse. But look at what he says. This is why my Father loves me, because I laid down my life that I might take it up again. No man, verse 18, taketh it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. This commandment have I received of my Father. So Jesus made a choice. He says, I have the power to decide whether to lay it down or not. And this is why my Father loves me, because I made a choice to do what he had told me to do, even when it was painful and inconvenient. I sacrificed and I made a choice. So we find out that individuals will make choices, Jesus Christ made a choice. Nations will also make choices. At a certain point, a whole nation had to choose between Jesus Christ and Barabbas. Can you imagine? They actually decided they don't like Jesus Christ and they chose Barabbas. Two options, a good choice and a bad choice, yet they made a bad choice. As we go through this year, at the end of the year, everybody here will have to make a choice on who becomes the next president of this country. You can decide to see a good person and reject a good person and vote for something else. But when you have chosen, you can't come now and come and pray and ask God to override your choice. You chose it. Israel actually made a bad choice. They had the option to have chosen Jesus Christ, but collectively, they rejected the Savior of the world. God never forces us. Salvation is free. It's not by force. You have to choose, I want to be saved or I don't want to be saved. Everybody sitting here, nobody is going to force you. You can choose, I want to love Jesus, or I've decided I'll play with him. So the interesting thing is, people sometimes don't make good choices. And then, when they are hot, they want to override it with prayer. It doesn't work. When God came to Adam, he said, Adam, you are going to make a decision to choose what to do with your life. Eat of every tree, but there's a particular tree, don't eat of it. Again, Adam had everything for himself, and yet that particular instruction not to eat, that is the choice he made. I will eat. All of you sitting in church this morning, beautiful as you are, your life is made up of choices. Is somebody hearing me? So you have to make a choice whether to enter into prosperity or to remain poor or to be poor. You have to make a choice to decide whether the future is going to be bigger and better, or you want the future to be bleaker and dimmer. The whole theology of judgment is based on choices. Because if God is going to be a judge, it presupposes that there has to be a basis. If you have no choice, then you can't be judged. But because you have choices, or you can exercise your right to choose, that is why you'll be judged. If you make a bad choice, you will end up in a bad place. If you make a good choice, you will end up in a good place. Choices are not just what you say with your mouth, but also what you do with your life. So you can make a choice. If I put before you blessing and curses, if I put before you life and death, with your mouth you may choose life and blessings, but with your life you may choose death and curse. So it is not just what you say, it is actually what you end up doing with your life. So you can know, everybody here knows that being punctual is good. Being honest is good. But when you are faced with the option, come early. Don't take a bribe. Don't drive through the traffic light when it is red. You see? But people still know that it is not a good thing, but they still do it. If you ask them in school, should anybody drive through a traffic light? Everybody will say no. With their mouth, they say no. But when they are faced with life choices, they drive through because with their life, they do something else. So the challenge is people who seem to know what is right and then end up doing the wrong things. What is it? Every choice you make will affect your future. Choose life. You can be very educated and still make bad choices, because education is different from life. You can get A in school and still let your life go in. And how many of you know that you shouldn't drink before you go to the office, or you shouldn't drink and drive? I mean, isn't it amazing? They know, and yet they won't do. How many know that if you are in a position of trust, you shouldn't steal? And I hope I can preach this to many members of our government. Who doesn't know that you shouldn't steal? Yet, everybody tell you stealing is not good. Yet, when they have to choose with their lives. So, it's very interesting how people see life. Because they think that we can say this and do that. But the doing brings consequences that are unpleasant. With your mouth, you want prosperity. But beyond that, our actions and our lives must take us into prosperity. That is why over the past few weeks, I've spoken to you about the laws. Because if we don't practice doing it, we may know it, but we don't experience it. Are you with me? Oh, come on, are you with me? Because all that I've taught you, if you don't do it, you will be like somebody who has correct answers. You've had Bible studies, you shared, you checked Revelation, but your life is still the same. Because the doing with your life is what brings the consequence of your knowledge. So what have we spoken about? The first law, mental transformation through meditation. Give thyself wholly. How many of you have started wholly giving yourself? How many of you meditate on the word? How many are thinking about yourself? How many are taking thought about your future and asking God to give you dreams for your tomorrow? We've spoken about the law of diligence. How many of you have become diligent? You see, rather, you will find some people who must know, and yet they are becoming reckless, or they are lazy, or they are careless. And then you are still wondering why you have bitter and painful experiences. When will you get to the point of self-discipline? And discipline yourself in a way that by a certain time, you know that your life is in order and your life is no longer disorderly. That there's a time to wake up, there's a way to sit in church and not sleep, there's a way to take your notebook and your pen and write notes. When will you learn self-discipline? When will you learn self-discipline to learn to do things by yourself? So till you begin to do those things, you find out that your life, your mouth says one thing, yet your actions totally take you out of life. So God says, I've put before you life and death. We've spoken about hard work. We've spoken about long hours. We've spoken about self-denial. We've spoken about tolerating people and learning to stay in place and putting in more effort. Has it reflected in our lives? Is it reflecting in our lives? Is it reflecting in the ashes? Is it reflecting in the prayer warriors? Is it reflecting in the choir? Is it reflecting in the youth? You see, unless these things become a doing thing, what we have heard, we do. What we know, we live by it. You will find out that we are faced with this issue. There's life before us, but we choose death. There's blessing before us, but we choose curses. At 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m., you come to church, you are sleeping. I still don't understand. Still don't understand. And we've spoken about all these things. We've spoken about the law of integrity, where your character is not compromised, because your yea is yea. When you say you do something, you do it. If you're a seamstress, when you say I'll deliver by this time, you deliver. Unfortunately, you see, one of the things which is very interesting is that people say that blessing is just God will bless me. And so I don't have to do anything. Whoever I am, whatever I do, God will bless me. So sometimes, as people stay longer in the presence of God, they become more reckless and more careless. The blessing of God is not just clapping. Oh, I want to emphasize it again. It's a serious thing. There must be change of lifestyles. There must be change of habits. There must be change of attitudes, not gifts. So you can sing well and be broke. You can pray well and be poor. Till you find out that you begin to apply the covenant principles, hard work, mental transformation, diligence, self-discipline, integrity, and you begin to produce works of excellence. So forget about what is in your head. What is in your head must become part of your life. Integrate it and make it a lifestyle. Otherwise, there's life before you, but you choose death. There's blessing before you, you choose curses. There's prosperity before you, but you've chosen poverty. There are 24 hours in a day. How you spend and manage those hours determines the results you achieve in life. In the time space you have, everybody has to make choices. You have to make a choice to sleep. You have to make a choice to work. You have to make a choice to study. I was speaking with one diplomat who was telling me that the difference between poverty and riches is found in 8 hours that are silent. He said, most people wake up in the morning for 8 hours. They may go to work or they may go to school. Then another 8 hours, people are also sleeping. There's another 8 hours that is like it's for you. It's silent. What you do with that 8 hours that is for you is what makes the difference. And many people cannot account for the second 8 hours or the third 8 hours. Oh, we went to work and went to sleep. What about the extra 8 hours that will make up the 24 hours? What did you do with it? Because that is where the battle is won. Everybody sleeps. Everybody works. But the 8 hours that nobody accounts for, what do you do with it? Do you study? Do you go an extra mile? Do you invest more in that 8 hours? Over the past 2 months, we have applied ourselves as a church to a regime of Bible studies and practical training. We have all had the same 24 hours to determine what to do. What choices have you made in the past 2 months with your mouth and your life? We all knew there was Bible study. What did you do? We all knew there's training this month. What have you done? Some people have procrastinated and postponed and done nothing. We all had the same 1 month. But how you utilize that 1 month? So some people in this church have gone through the 2 months, no Bible study, no training. You can't make some choices and blame God. We've spoken about training, a regime of placing yourself under rigorous exercise, getting new knowledge, getting new skills. At the end of the day, what new knowledge, what new skills have you had? So you begin to ask yourself, I place before you life. I place before you death. God says, choose life that you may live. You and your children, it will be better for you. But you sat back. January, you didn't come for any Bible. You didn't come for anything. You didn't go for anything. February, you haven't done any training. I know you are in church this morning. You see, you are there, but you've made choices. So in a few minutes, I'm going to show you what influences people's actions. I want you to understand yourself, why you do the things you do. Why are some people rich? Why are some people poor? There's a process that people go through in their lives. The first one is the environment. If you were born in Ghana, you were born into an environment. If you were born in Tokyo, you were born into an environment. If you were born in Japan or in America, you were born into an environment. You were born into a world you came to meet. And in that environment, you grew. In that environment, you came to meet people, and those people have created an environment for you. So if you grew up in an environment of maybe laziness, you grew up in an environment where people wake up in the morning, they don't bath. You grew up in an environment where people sleep and they don't wake. Because you grew up in that environment, the environment can teach you. So you don't even realize that as you are growing up, where the environment you live in is actually dictating how you behave. So you grew up in a house where maybe people wake up in the morning, they don't bath. So you learnt it. You grew up in an environment where people wake up in the morning, everybody has left the house and is doing something. So you also learned how to wake up early. So the environment begins to teach you and create knowledge for you. If you don't realize that the environment can shape your life. That is why Jesus says, I am in this world, but I have chosen not to be of the world. Because the environment can form you and make you learn things. And if you were born in an environment where maybe your parents never went to school, there's no, forgive me, washroom or toilet in your house. It will shape you and how you behave. Can you understand that? It is important for you to understand why you do some of the things you do. If the environment gives you knowledge, what you learn is based on the environment. So if the environment you grew up in was made up of people who taught you, who didn't know a lot, what they know is what they will teach you. We don't even seem to know what is good. The standards are so low because that's the environment. Everybody around you does the same thing. So it's like that's the standard. You wake up in the morning, you just wear shorts. You leave your stomach and your chest and you just walk on the streets. It's normal. It doesn't even occur to you that as an elderly person, you should wear something before you come out of your room. Because the environment has taught you. Then the environment also, because of what it has taught you, gives you experiences. What you go through. As you go through life, you pick up experiences from you pick up lessons from your experiences, good or bad. So you find people who maybe they shout. Because you've grown up in an environment where if you don't shout, you won't be heard. So even in normal conversation, you must shout. Because your environment has taught you things and given you some experiences, and those experiences have created now a belief system. So you believe that shouting is good. Even if you are talking to your wife, you mustn't shout. You are talking to your children, you mustn't shout. You have a belief system that the one who shouts is the person who is doing well. Now you have a belief system. You have accepted it that this is normal. And then out of your belief system, you begin to have values. So somebody who has grown up in an environment, he's picked up knowledge, he's had experiences, he has a belief system. What will his values be like? So you have values of honesty and dishonesty. You have values of punctuality and lateness. You know, haven't you realized that in Ghana, when we call for a meeting, most people say Ghana time. Because they've accepted it as a value. It's normal that if you're an important person, go to places late. So you don't realize why some of us are also now struggling, because our things that if the service starts at 7, come at 9. Because every wedding you go to never starts on time. Every funeral you go to never starts on time. Every government program you go to never starts on time. So you have come to accept that. And unfortunately, it is fighting and mitigating God's plan for your life. So there are things you've even, because of certain values you have, now you don't even longer believe in education. Education is not valuable to you. You believe in maybe politics or buying your way through something because The environment has created a value system that going to school and learning hard and passing an exam is a waste of time. And you need to be able to understand why you are behaving the way you behave. So out of your values, you are now making choices. So based on your value, if you have to go to school and you have to go and bribe somebody for a certificate, or you have to go and do something, you see, your values now determine your choices. If you have to go early and you have to go late, what you value now begins to determine the choice you make. If you have money and you have to spend it on education, or you have to spend it on a funeral, your values, which has been determined by your belief systems and your experiences and the knowledge from the environment, now determines what you will do. And many people, you see, immediately try to change the environment, they fight it because they are so comfortable. So if you come to church and you sleep and somebody rebukes you, you are angry. If you don't bring your assignment on time and the lecturer marks you down, you get angry. You see, instead of rather helping yourself, you are now joking with the environment that has employed you. You are now creating confusion in the environment that pays you. Now you become disrespectful. Now you come anytime you like. Now you go anywhere you like. You are no longer subject to the laws of the kingdom. Unless you understand it. You see, I place before you life and I place before you death. In a travesty of justice, they made bad choices. So being in church is not enough. The choices you make, do you want to be the best? Do you want to be excellent? You have to make choices. Do you want to be godly? Do you want to work hard? Do you want to be self-disciplined? Choices. Choices. There are many things that we have seen which are not good, but we repeat them. I remember when I was in Form 1, and many people who have gone to secondary school, when you're in Form 1, they call you a fresh boy or a Nino. And they bully you. And you are crying and you are angry. And you wish that they'll punish all the students and you hate them. And then you wait till you get to Form 2 and Form 3. And you find out that usually what people hated, they practice with even more aggression. So you don't like poverty. But you find out that when you get the opportunity, you will create poverty. You don't like bullying. Yet when you become a senior and get more power, you will bully more than people. You don't like the policemen who collect bribes. Yet if they make you a policeman today, and you are looking for places where you know, in fact, many people when they are looking for a job, they are looking for places where they know they can get bribes quickly. To bring about transformation, it's a difficult thing because you are dealing with people's habits. You are dealing with people's lifestyles. You are dealing with environments. So maybe in an environment in a part of Ghana, people don't go to school. People don't work hard. People are lazy. People don't have a good belief system. And then they come to church where God begins to teach them through his word. Because I place before you death and life. Then he says, choose life. Make choices that will help you. Some people come to church, they don't do anything. You see, make choices that will help you. Make choices that will help you. Some people have decided, as for me, this is what I can do, and nobody can talk to me. You see, make choices and decisions that help you. Is somebody with me? Okay, so it is important. Daniel chapter 6, verse 3. Daniel made choices, amazing choices. Then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes. Why? Because an excellent spirit was in him. Daniel is a stranger. The environment has changed. He could easily have settled and let the environment influence him. But Daniel made choices that I shall live and not die. Daniel makes a choice that I will be different and outstanding. The environment is not conducive. In the environment of slavery, I can decide to be a slave and also be normal and also accept the life as normal. But Daniel makes a quality choice. I will be different. I will be different. I'll be a different prayer warrior. I'll be a different choir leader. I'll be a different worship leader. I'll be a different usher. And he began to apply the laws and the principles of the covenant. Integrity, self-discipline, hard work, mental transformation, diligence. And the Bible says that Daniel had an excellent spirit. Excellent spirit in him. Excellent spirit in him. You see, make a choice, church. Make a decision. I will be excellent. I will go beyond the mark. I will press on. I will work hard. It's a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice. You know, sometimes we make bad choices and then we go for prayer meeting. No. Prayer means that you are transforming your life to align with God's ways. Prayer is not just, you see, there's a part about prayer where we talk, but there's a part about prayer where we conform to the will of God with our lives. So the prayer warrior is not just somebody who checks revelations and leads people into prayer. His life is also in alignment. Let our lives be in divine alignment. Are you with me this morning? Let our lives be in divine alignment. Learn it. Practice it. Make new choices. Learn new things. Two things you must do. Invest into acquisition and application of new knowledge. Invest. Get better at what you do. Don't get worse. Improve at what you do. So if you are coming early, if you're coming at 8, don't become worse and come at 5 after 8. And start giving yourself an excuse. After it's only 5 minutes late. Improve by coming at 7:55 now. I don't understand. Sometimes it's sad. This is our environment. You see, the more people become big, the more they relax the rules. Not in God's kingdom. So you find somebody who was coming early, diligent, then you give him a little post. Then he thinks that, you see the environment and position. It's like when I have a position now, I have liberty to break rules. No. You don't have liberty to break rules. You now have the responsibility of enforcing rules. Is somebody here with me? Oh, come on. Is somebody here with me? Yes. Because God's standards, God's ways are higher than our ways. And that's the way that leads to prosperity. Invest in new knowledge, new skills. Number 2, practice, practice, practice. Don't just talk. Practice. Do it. Practice the new knowledge. Practice. Make it a part of your life so that every day I'll be punctual. Every day I work hard. Every day I'm diligent. It's now a part of me. It's not something that I pick up. It is me. And everybody can now say about me, I have an excellent spirit. So every department of this church, till you are described as excellent, you are not there. So when I come and look at the ashes, I should call them an excellent ashes. When I look at the prayer warriors, excellent prayer warriors. When I look at the choir, excellent choir. When I look at the projection team, excellent projection team. Everything about you must practice and eliminate every form of inefficiency. And believe you me, you see, when you read the Daniel story, it's very important. Because the Daniel story talks about Daniel was preferred above presidents and kings. Presidents and kings are high level, who have eliminated some things around them. So if you want to be about presidents and kings, for example, if you work with me directly, please, for your own sake, don't lower the standards. Seriously. If you want to come and work with me directly in my office, you must be one of the best, where you don't lower standards. Because around me, it determines the environment. So if you are shoddy, if you think that you will get away with things, please stay where you are. You must be preferred above presidents and above kings. Because you practice. Because you rehearse. Because you eliminate every form of inefficiency. And you have an excellent spirit. In conclusion, there are 3 things that will help you. In conclusion, is that make a choice to only bring around you good examples. So make a choice that you will only follow good examples, not bad examples. So you must be able to see something somebody's doing and say, this is not good. I don't want this in my life. So you grew up in an area where people don't learn. You've grown up in an area where people don't work. You've grown up in an area where people are disrespectful. That shouldn't be your example. Choose good examples. And sometimes good examples are not within your immediate environment. Go somewhere else and pick good examples. Because examples are what you see that you follow unconsciously. So if you are always with bad examples, you end up doing the bad things and normalize it. As a church, in a place like Choco, we cannot allow ourselves to follow bad examples. Can you understand what I'm saying? Yes. We cannot. There are a lot of examples around. We must choose which to follow. There are a lot of pastors around. We must choose whom to follow. There are a lot of churches around. We must choose whom to associate with. There are a lot of hairdressers around. You must decide which hairdresser you want to be. There are a lot of tailors and banku sellers around. Choose good examples. Because one of the things that derails people are bad examples. The second thing is to have new exposure. There's a popular saying, travel and see. You see, if your world is your immediate environment, you will not do well. So sometimes you need to challenge yourself and go to other places and go and see. So for example, if you run a chop bar, travel to a restaurant and see. If you live in a place where there's no washroom, go to places where they have built houses and every room has a washroom. You see, exposure increases your appetite. So sometimes you think you are the best till you travel. Then you begin to see. You begin to see buildings you have never seen before. You begin to see prosperity you have never seen before. You begin to see dresses you never thought people would make. It challenges you. If you confine yourself to your immediate environment and you become a local champion, you won't go far. So let the hymns choir go and see other choirs who sing like them and challenge them. Let the protocol team go to a place and look at the protocol team and be challenged. Because if you don't have good examples, get exposure. Get exposure. And the third way to challenge yourself is expectations. When you have gone to see, now increase your expectations. Don't do things the same way. Increase your expectations. So you went somewhere, and the way they served you, and the way the food had been garnished. Now when you come back to your own base, what you have learned, practice it. Don't go back to your old. You see, there are too many Africans and too many Ghanaians who travel abroad. They see the roads, they see the hospitals, they see the infrastructure, they see the way systems run. When they take a plane and they get to the airport, it's as if the wind blows out their brains. And immediately they come back to Ghana. They forget all they've seen and they come and do the same things that didn't help them. When you have had exposure, increase your expectations. So if, for example, you are now going to buy food and you went somewhere and the way they packaged the food was nice. If you come to your local seller and he's packaging it wrongly, advise him to change it or don't buy it. Increase your expectations. Increase your expectations. So my expectations of the choir, the ushers, the prayer warriors are not based on my standards. They are based on standards that I know are international. I've seen choirs, I've seen protocol teams, I've seen projection, I've seen pastors, I've seen instrumentalists. So I want to pull you up from where you are to a higher level. So that the spiritual temple of the whole church and the whole community and our prosperity level will rise up. Is somebody with me? We are not going to remain the same. We want to do what we have learned. So, what does it mean? It means that there's going to be pressure. Oh yeah. There's going to be pressure. And nobody must choose death. How many of you want to die? I don't want to die. I want to live. How many of you want to be cursed? I don't want to be cursed. I want to be blessed. How many of you want poverty? I don't want poverty. I want prosperity. And if God has spoken and told me that I placed before you death and life and said choose life, powerhouse, let us, every one of us, choose life. Are you with me? Shall we rise on our feet?